Welcome to the Aquaflow Crypto Lab. In today's video, we are going to dive into two charts, one for Bitcoin and the second one for XRP. These two charts are critical, guys, if you want to take the pulse of the market and anticipate what could happen. The chart related to Bitcoin will give us the big picture of what's going on right now. This chart is probably the best chart that I ever created in my opinion, and recently I discovered a brand new signal that was in front of my eyes the whole time. I can't believe that I didn't see it before. And I will explain everything in this video. There is a second chart that you already know. It is related to XRP, as I said. Like for BTC, it gives us the big picture and the possible scenarios ahead of us. It's time to begin, so without further ado, let's get started. If you're new here on this channel, we are making creative analyses that you will not see on another channel. So if you like the content, consider subscribing. And for the rest of you, members of the Crypto Lab family, give me a thumbs up and share the video. Thanks for the support. Now let's dive into the BTC chart. As a reminder, I already made a detailed video about this chart 7 months ago at the end of the month of August, as you can see. Well, it is in French, but you understand that août means August of last year. So if you want more details about it, just watch the video. I put a link in the description. Now, one thing we can notice while we are still on the old video, you see here the spotlight indicator in yellow and the cloud line in white. There is a confluence point, a confluence area just right here. And remember guys, this was made in August of last year. Now let's take a look at the current situation. You can see that now the price is exactly at the confluence point between the spotlight indicator and the cloud line. Isn't it amazing? The price is exactly at the same spot. I don't know if you understand what it means. I told you that this is my most accurate chart of all time, and this is proof that it is still working well. And I know that I am the only one using the spotlight indicator because I coded it myself. And if we have a look at the past, you see how accurate the spotlight indicator is. Just look here. For the very first bull run of Bitcoin, it detects the very top. And every time it is a confluence point between the band, so either the top of the band in blue, the skyline, either the middle line with the cloud line in white, or what I called in my previous video the quicksand line, which is the line in red here, which is the bottom of the band. So let's have a look. Here it is the confluence point between the skyline in blue and the spotlight indicator, and it is a very top. Here it is a confluence point between the quicksand line in red and the spotlight indicator, and it is a very bottom, right? After this we went higher. At the same time we have the golden line, which is the ground line that detected the bottom, and it was a strong area of confluence that prevents us from going lower, and we bounced to the upside. After this, let's have a look here. We know that we have the spotlight indicator crossing the skyline, and again it was a major top for Bitcoin, right? Here it was a confluence point between the line, the red line of the pi cycle indicator, because you know that the pi cycle indicator has two lines, one in green and one in red. And here you see that it is a perfect confluence point here between the yellow line, the yellow spotlight indicator, sorry, and the red line of the pi cycle indicator. So it's still working fine. Here we know that it was a confluence point also. Let's have a look at the other areas. Here what happened? Here you can see that it was also a confluence point between, this time, the red line, which is the 200 weeks moving average that you see here in red, and the spotlight indicator. It was a perfect confluence point again. And here, guys, look, it was a perfect confluence point between the quicksand line and the spotlight indicator, which means that there is no randomness in this market, guys. Everything can be anticipated because every time it is a confluence point. This is showing you how powerful this chart is. And I'm not done yet. And in this analysis, I'm only taking into account the spotlight indicator because we have a lot of confluence points. As you can see, for example, here we have a lot of confluence points and it was the very bottom of Bitcoin. So we have multiple confluence points in this chart, but for this video, I am focusing on the spotlight indicator because currently we are in the spotlight indicator, right? So let's move on. Now, if we take a look at this major bull run of Bitcoin in 2017, again, guys, it was a confluence point. So I will take my pen here and I will circle it because it was a confluence point between the skyline and the spotlight indicator, right? After this, here we have a major bottom. It was not the very bottom of Bitcoin, but it was a major bottom. And again, it was a confluence area between the aqua line in blue and the spotlight indicator this time. Let's move on to the next one. This one is very, very interesting because as you can see, again, guys, we know this confluence area because it is between the red line of the pi cycle indicator and the spotlight indicator. It was the same thing, just right here. Okay, confluence, no, sorry, not here. It was the same case, just right here, sorry. You see it between the red line of the pi cycle indicator and the spotlight. And right now, here, during the COVID crisis, just before the COVID crisis and the COVID dump, you see that we had a confluence point and this was perfect. And here again, it was a perfect confluence area between, this time, the mountain indicator in green, the golden line here in yellow, also between the 200 weeks moving average and the aqua line in blue. Okay, so it was a big confluence area and we validated all these points just with one candle, and this was a capitulation candle before the major bull run of Bitcoin after this. And finally, if we have a look at what is going on right now, you see that Bitcoin is exactly at the confluence point between the cloud line in white and the spotlight indicator. This proves that a lot of things can be anticipated in the market because, again, if you have a look at my previous video, we had this area the whole time in front of our eyes, and you see that Bitcoin went right into it. So, what is the conclusion of this? If the spotlight indicator keeps on being accurate, we have multiple choices. We know that we will have confluence points in, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks to be precise. And we know that we will have a confluence area here. We will have a confluence area with the aqualine indicator. So either it could be low like this, but let's say that it will be here, around here, right? We will have a confluence point here, either with the cloud line in white or with the red line of the pi cycle top indicator. And we have a confluence area here with the hourglass indicator that you can see here, or the green line of the pi cycle top indicator. So this is the most bullish scenario. Then we could go sideways before having a major move. This is the middle point. Then this is the first bearish scenario, and this is the ultimate bearish scenario, which could be a capitulation before going higher. But whatever the scenario, we know that this should be a major pivot point for Bitcoin, but in 8 weeks we could have also a major move for Bitcoin. Remember what happened during the COVID crisis. Here we have a major move, but it wasn't as big as the capitulation after it. Okay, so we need to remember this. So right now we have to pay attention to what will go next. For now, we are still above the cloud line, which is good, but we are in a very tight zone where the price doesn't really know where to go. You can see it, right? If I circle it, you see that the price is hesitating a lot. It's doing this below the cloud line, above it, below it, and right now we are again above it, which is good, and we want to keep the price above the cloud line, because remember that the cloud line is like the mean of Bitcoin. What do I mean by that? It gives us the general trend of Bitcoin. Of course, it is a model, but for now it's working very well. And if we had to sum up Bitcoin with one line, it would be the cloud line. Why? Because no matter where Bitcoin goes, at the end of the day, it always comes back to the cloud line. You can see that here we were below the cloud line, but we tested it multiple times. After it, we went up, but we came back to the cloud line. Here we stayed below it, we crossed it, used it as a support before going higher. Again, we came back to it before crossing it. Here we stayed below it for a while, but we came back to it. Then we crossed it, used it as a support before crossing it, and then using it as a resistance. So you understand that Bitcoin is dancing around this cloud line, and this is no coincidence that right now we are right at the middle of the trend of Bitcoin on the cloud line. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm just showing you my observations, but in case we go lower, what you need to understand is that the first target would be the aqua line, and the second one would be the ground line, the mountain indicator, the 200 weeks moving average. You see that there is a big area of confluence here. So if we go down, it will be quick. Everyone will buy Bitcoin because it will be an opportunity of a lifetime. That's all for Bitcoin. Let me know what you think about this analysis in the comments. I almost forgot to share an exciting news with you guys. If you take a look at the same chart, but this time on the monthly time frame, you have something that is very interesting, because if you take a look at the big picture, you see that when we had capitulations for Bitcoin, for example here, okay, first we have the price going to the cloud line, we have a bounce, and then we have a second candle below the cloud line before going down, okay? If we take a look at this bear market, it's exactly the same thing. We went to the cloud line, we had a bounce, we tried to stay above it, but we couldn't, and we had this candle just below the cloud line before having the capitulation candle. Okay? So you need to pay attention to this. If we have a look at the very first bear market of Bitcoin, it was pretty much the same thing. We went to the cloud line, we have a small bounce with a wick here, and then we crossed it to the downside, right? So what we need to pay attention right now, which could be an early sign for a capitulation, it would be to see Bitcoin crossing the cloud line on the monthly time frame. This is very important, guys, because as you can see, we have no false signal on the monthly time frame. Every time that Bitcoin crossed the cloud line, it was the first step of a capitulation into a bear market and an official bottom before the next cycle. You can see it here, we crossed it. Here we crossed it, it was a bottom. Here we crossed it, it was a bottom. And every time before it, we have a small candle below the cloud line. Here we have a candle below the cloud line. So what does it mean? If we take a look at the past of Bitcoin, you see that here we had a local top before the blow of top touching the skyline, right? And if you have even a closer look than this, you see that we went above the cloud line and then we retested the cloud line, okay? Look, here, you see that we retested the cloud line with this wick. And then we went up, and then we retested it again. So we retested it twice, and even a third time before going to the upside. So right now, we know that the cycles of Bitcoin are lengthening. So this was shorter than this phase, but we know for a fact that this could be a local top for Bitcoin, but not the blow-off top, okay? And if it's not the blow-off top, it is following exactly the same schema as this, because you see that we tested the cloud line multiple times before going up. And right now, this is exactly what we are doing, but it's taking longer because the cycle is longer than before. And as you can see, we tested the cloud line multiple times here, and here we tested it again. But so far we have no candle with a full body below the cloud line. So this is very important. So what we want from Bitcoin to save the whole market and to be bullish for the whole crypto market is to see Bitcoin staying above the cloud line, crossing the red line and staying above it before going up. Right now it is a positive sign, but it's not strong enough to have a clear vision of what Bitcoin wants to do. That's why we need to pay attention to this. I hope it's clear. It's very good to have big bounces like this every time we touch the cloud line, but it's not enough. We want to make a higher high, guys, to confirm that the current local trend has been reversed. Now let's move on to XRP. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for the support if you like the video so far. It helps a lot, guys. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry to say it, but XRP situation has not changed that much. Technically, we are still in the bear market. Why? Because we crossed the bull market support in November of last year. And since the cross, we've been using the bull market support as a resistance this time. As you can see here, and here also we almost touched the line. Fortunately, after the strong move to the downside, we had the EMA, the 180 EMA that saved us, and we had a strong move to the upside this time. And we anticipated the move successfully thanks to the line, but also thanks to our buy-sell signal. And after this, we had a rejection, and right now we are starting to move up. But I want you to stay level-headed. For now, we still have a strong downside pressure because XRP is still making lower highs. Okay, every time we touched the last resistance band in red, we got rejected to the downside. Now, the first resistance that we have ahead of us is the bull market support, and for now XRP is trending between the bull market support and the 180 EMA. And if you have a look at the Poloniex chart, you see that it's even clearer, because here you see that the moving average was a very strong resistance, then we had a bounce, and we trending between those two lines for a while before attempting to a breakout, but we failed and we got rejected multiple times from those lines, right? So right now XRP is in the transition phase. Remember that we have one step, two steps, three steps, okay? So we have a very strong move to the downside, then we went sideways in the second step, and then we have the final move of XRP, which gave us our low. We know that we crossed the bull market support, and right now we are trending between those two lines. So I'm not saying that we will cross the EMA to go lower, because you see that even here we made an attempt to cross the bull market support. So we may attempt to do it also, but we need to pay attention to where XRP wants to go. If we have a move above it, so it will be pretty bullish, but if we start going below the EMA, then it will be bearish. And our next target is the mountain indicator, and right now it is trending at $0.37. So that's all for this chart. As you can see, there is not much to say because XRP is still trending in a critical zone, but it's getting closer to a decision, right? Because we have a strong pressure to the downside, but at the same time, XRP is keeping this level. So sooner or later, XRP will have to make a decision. But right now, it's hard to say in which direction XRP will go. And this is exactly why I made this analysis for Bitcoin, because as long as Bitcoin stays above the cloud line, it stays pretty bullish. So this would be a good sign for XRP, and we could hope that XRP will be able to break out and above the bull market support and reach new highs. That's all for today's video. If you liked the content, please subscribe, like the video, give me a thumbs up, and comment the video below and let me know what you think about this analysis. That's all. It's time to leave the crypto lab. Thanks for watching. Do not ever be afraid to make new experiments. And if someone tells you you're crazy, just tell them. Time will tell.